Hello, this is a label test run comparing the performance of the KSSTI 1080 with embedded microprocessor and KSSTI 1000 with plastic on paper labels. The 1080 does outperform the 1000 with respect to auto-teach during the running process. When I attempt to calibrate or teach the 1000 over a full label, the sensor gets confused and switches over heavily inked areas, and the 1080 does not. I will demonstrate and I will teach the sensor over one full label. So we'll start at the beginning of one label. I'll hold the button for 2 seconds. The sensor's in teach mode. I will run across the full label in one transition. Now if we move back to the beginning of the label, at that transition point, you'll see that the sensor is tripped at the gap point, which is marked by these two black lines. And as I pass over the gap point, it takes a while to turn off, and then it will turn back on again. 2, 3. So it's tripping 4 times over the length of one label, which is definitely not good. The 1080 does not do this. It seems to handle on the run calibration much better. Although it is still fairly sensitive over long runs with regards to where you actually teach the sensor. I find it works best when you start in the middle of one label, pass over a transition, and then end in the middle of the next label. However, during this test, I actually found the best way to program or teach all of these sensors is to simply teach it over the gap itself. And I'll demonstrate here. What you do is hold the button for 2 seconds, wait till it goes into teach mode, and then just slowly run it across just that transition point only. And I'll do that with the 1080 as well. So right on the transition point. Okay, and then just slowly run it across, back and forth over that transition only. And then we'll run from one transition to the next. You'll see the sensor is tripped, and it does not trip over the rest of the label. And then at the next transition, the sensor trips, which is exactly what we want it to do. And does the same thing for the 1080. So over the transition, it trips, does not trip for the rest of the label until the next transition. And the third sensor, over the transition, trips, doesn't trip over the length of the label. At the next transition, trips. So I think that the best way to program all of these, and it doesn't matter what label, whether it be paper on paper or plastic on paper, I think the best place to teach these is over the transition point and only at the transition. The sensors seem to get confused over these plastic labels with the ink because this particular label is a dye sublimated sheet, and I'm guessing, an educated guess, that the capacitance levels between the inked areas and the non-inked areas is different and is enough to meet the threshold requirement of the sensor and therefore trip it when it shouldn't be.